Welcome to the Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Heather Murray, who is an independent travel consultant with Travelmation, and also our very own Travefy team member, Kathy Estes, who is also a travel advisor as well. So awesome. So welcome to the Lounge to both of you. We're so excited to have you both on here. It's going to be a party.
Fun. Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah.
So glad to be here.
I know this is gonna be cool. I love when we have multiple guests too. It just makes it really fun. And I have to say, it is June. Happy Pride Month. And we're yes, Pride Month. One of the happiest months of the year. It is so exciting. And we're also really excited about this episode because we want to focus on the LGBTQ plus travel community. It's a huge community. And we just really want to talk about what makes it unique. And then also just how travel advisors listening to this, whether you're a new advisor or a veteran advisor, how do you get into, what should you know about selling LGBTQ plus travel and what you can do to get started and all the ins and outs that you should know. So that's kind of what we're going to be chatting about. I'm really excited to get into all that. But before we do that, can each of you just share, how did you get started in the travel industry? So Heather, I'll start with you first.
Okay. Yeah. I'm relatively new to travel. I got into this right at the height of the pandemic in 2020. My main job, I'm a therapist, and my clients had kind of dropped off, and I was looking for a fun way to make some additional income. So I got into travel that way. I had a really good experience with a travel advisor that made my vacation magical. So I was like, ooh, I want to do that. I want to help people plan that kind of stuff. So I just started a little over 2 years ago.
That's also right in the pandemic too.
Yes.
Taking the leap. I love it. Yes. And Kathy, how about you? How did you get started in the industry?
Well, I started in 1981 when we were still writing paper tickets. So a little bit longer ago than Heather. I started in corporate travel. So I was issuing airline tickets and booking hotels and meetings using a GDS. I was on Sabre at the time and then Apollo. Later, I went to travel school because I wanted to expand into leisure. From there, I went back into corporate travel. So I did corporate travel management. I've been a conference and convention planner for many years. I've also been on the hotel side as a director of sales, so running those departments, and kind of came full circle. So I'm back to doing mostly leisure, some corporate group, things like that. And of course, my day job is Travefy. So what I like about that is that I don't get to just sell travel for myself, but I get to help others, find useful tools to make them successful in the industry as well.
Yes, that's so awesome. We love it. So exciting to have both of you. And kind of a side note, but Heather, what has it been like starting your business during the pandemic?
Well, my big motto was everybody needs something to look forward to. So maybe you can't travel right now, but you need to always have that in your mind that something's coming up. So I kind of got people on board with, let's just plan a year out, just so you have something to think about, to kind of plan for. And that has worked well for me. So I'm super happy with how things have gone.
That's awesome. There's been so many, and Kathy, I was just going to say, you've talked to so many agents and there's a ton of new advisors coming into the industry right now. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say 50% of the agents I talk to every day are brand new. Brand new as in literally they've started in the last few months, this past year, or they started just before the pandemic. So really the last 2 years don't count. So they're still kind of new because they're still learning and just starting to sell. But many of them, dabbled in the industry, or they've retired, and now this is going to be a second career, or they've just discovered it. So a lot of new agents out there.
Yeah, it's so cool. And that's why this is also a really good episode. I mean, just for everybody, but really too, I mean, there's a lot of advisors and they're finding what do they want to specialize in? Are they going to do different things? What should they be knowing? So again, this is so perfect. And thank you both for being here. So to start off, this first biggest question probably is for travel advisors and agents just starting to tap into the LGBTQ plus market, what should they know? And I know that's a huge question, but what are the top things that come to mind first that someone should consider if you're interested in focusing on this community?
I'll go first. Okay.
Let you take it away.
I feel like you need to pick on us. We're waiting for you.
Okay, I'll start picking after this.
I would just say, just like any market segment, you want to educate yourself, right? Why do you want to work within this market? Why is this a group of people you want to work with? No different than I want to work in Disney. I want to work in weddings, anything that's going to be a little bit more custom and specialized. Even though we call them market segments, they really are people. So we need to know, is this a group of people that we would like to plan for? Some people don't want to do weddings at all. And some people don't want to do Disney or don't want to do families. Look at it that way. This is a specialized market, just like any other specialized market. So really start to do some research and educate yourself on what is in this market. What does it mean to be in this market? You have to know how to vet people and ask the appropriate and important discovery questions when you're going to speak to somebody about a trip, a vacation, or a wedding, just like any other market. And so the difference would be, and Heather can speak to this much better than I am sure, that you can't be afraid to ask even the hard questions, and you can't be afraid to advise for people who are traveling, again, in any market, because we want to make sure that places we send people to and things that they're asking for are a good fit. Sometimes people ask for things that may not be good fit because they're just excited about it. And we don't want to, poo-poo anybody's idea of where they want to go or what they want to do, but we also want to make sure things are a good fit.
Yeah. And, I would echo that a lot. And I would also say, and this is kind of counterintuitive because as a member of the queer community, we've spent so many years saying, we're just like you, we're just like you. And we are, but our travel needs are not just like you. And so I kind of echo what Kathy's saying. Sometimes folks want to go to areas that are not safe for them and are not okay for them. And sometimes if we are educated on the subject, we can move them in another direction that would be safe and comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm. Man, which is just so crazy that, and we'll get into that too, some of the top, places and all that. But how do you start knowing that? How do you start getting that type of education? Are there certain resources, or where did you start to understand that?
I started with IGLTA, which is the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Advisor Group. And that's a good place to get education and learn about resources. So that was the first source that I started with.
Yeah, I would agree. That's probably one of the largest organizations out there that you can join. They do a lot of events all over the world. In fact, the most recent annual event was in Atlanta this past year. And now I think this year was in Italy or something. And I think it's coming to Puerto Rico next year, or maybe, or Costa Rica? Yeah, someplace like that. It's a little closer in a way, but that is a great resource. There's also a lot of Facebook groups. There's also the Meeting Professionals Association group for the LGBTQ community. And even though that might be leisure, it's going to be a lot of the same information and stuff. So really just finding yourself out there, educating yourself. I have a list of places. In fact, I'm sure Heather and I could both provide a list of resources maybe after this podcast or at the end that we could share with the audience of places they might be looking into.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. And then I'll put those on academy.travefy.com. So everyone listening, you can go there, and I'll put all those up there. Because I know there's a lot. I know, Kathy, before you sent a ton of different ones. And there's also the really interesting one that you're mentioning, and I had never heard of this, is Community Marketing Insights.
Yes,
and that's really cool.
It's amazing.
Too.
It's amazing. So they've been around for over 20 years. And what they do is they do market research. And so they also break down their market research. So it wouldn't be specifically just LGBTQ in general. It might be about marketing. It might be about tourism. It might be about destinations. It might be for CVBs. Their research information is free. You can go to their website. And then they also have an annual conference. This past year they didn't because they participated, COVID, how many times are we going to say that, right? Yeah. But they actually participated in the IGLTA in Atlanta because they were just really trying to support so people wouldn't have to travel to two different conferences. But their conferences are super fun, amazing, a wealth of information, and it breaks it down for you in a way that you really know how many dollars are being spent by married couples with children, demographics, age, Where do they live? Are they employed? How much do they make? Where do they travel? How long do they travel? How do they travel? It's a wealth of information if you really want to dive in, and it's very helpful in helping you market to certain segments as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. And one thing too that is there anything like marketing wise, especially for you, Heather, when you started your business, was there any marketing things that you found is really helpful? Like, do you find yourself on Facebook groups a lot, or just social media, or what are you using really to connect with people?
Yeah, primarily I'm on Facebook and Instagram. That's been the majority of my marketing. I've recently ventured into TikTok, but that requires a level of skill I'm not sure I have yet.
Yeah,
TikTok
I will
is
just
intense.
say
Yeah.
ditto with Heather, including TikTok.
I know. TikTok is I love it, but I do not make videos because it would take forever. And it's just that the amount of work that goes into it and what you get back is just a little different until you start really growing in that, which is cool. So one thing that I'm really curious about too is when knowing your client, because we were mentioning about at the beginning, like knowing your client stuff, but what are the right things that you need to be asking? Is there certain things that you need to make sure, like what type of vacation are you looking for? I know, Kathy, you were saying even before, like even things like what are your chosen pronouns, like things that people might not think about that they need to be aware of.
I'm always clear with folks that as your advisor, I respect your identity, I respect your name. For travel purposes, I am going to need your legal name as according to your passport, but I will always call you by your chosen name and use your chosen pronouns. And when people hear that, whether it applies to them or not, it lets them know they're in a safe space and that you're going to be respectful of them. So I say that's always a great way to start a conversation with a client that you're unsure of.
No, I totally agree. It's just being respectful, right? I mean, just like we have a generation that still wants to be called Mr. or Mrs. because they're 80 or in their 90s. They come from that background. No problem. I can call you that as well. So just being respectful. But to Heather's point, we do need to make sure that legal information appears appropriately on travel documentation. Because sometimes if it is your chosen name and that's what you're using everywhere, there still has to be the education and understanding from us to the client that, we still need to make sure that documentation matches appropriately for travel. But yeah, everything Heather said.
Yeah, I think it's so important to know just a lot of things, that you just might not think about, and it means a lot to the other person on the other end. And so, so those kind of things. But another one too that is really interesting is, can you both share what are some, and even any of your own like experiences of going on fam trips or your own personal travel of what are the best countries, the best places, and then maybe things that aren't the best right now and should be aware of those.
Yeah, I've been on several fam trips over the last 2 years. The places that I have felt the safest are Mexico and on cruises. As a general rule, the Caribbean countries, while I love to visit them and I will never give them up, are not really a safe place to be openly LGBTQ at this point in time. But I still love them and I still travel there.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that probably is surprising, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you
it's
think
very
the Caribbean
surprising.
would be? See, and that goes right back to, you're right. Everybody wants to go there, but let's talk a little bit about how it's going to be while you're there. So, but I agree. I think Mexico is right now probably the top destination, has been for a very long time, specifically probably Puerto Rico. Not Puerto Rico, Puerto Vallarta.
Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, because I'm in travel, so I know Puerto Rico's in Mexico somewhere, right? Puerto Vallarta, sorry. But yeah, a very, very popular destination. And then in the United States, Florida, of course, is very popular, but specifically,
Well, that has fallen out of fashion recently.
yeah, overall, but specifically, you have destinations that are very, very welcoming. In fact, the number one place in Florida would be, Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale is very, very upfront about being welcoming. And they have they were supposed to host the largest LGBTQ festival 2.5 years ago, just before COVID. And unfortunately, that fell through. So I don't know if it'll be coming back to that destination soon, but also very welcoming specifically. So actually you can have destinations as a whole that may not be welcoming, but something within that is welcoming, or vice versa as
Absolutely.
well. So mhm.
Mhm. It's so sad that you even have to like have this conversation, but how do you have a conversation sometimes with someone who really wants to go somewhere and you're like, we can make this work, but here's what you need to know. Like how do you approach those conversations? Just again, unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm planning a group trip right now for a Facebook group that I'm a part of, is a group of married lesbians, and we're going to the Dominican Republic to a resort there. And so I've had to have individual conversations with each of them about you're going to be fine when you're on property on the resort. They want your money, they want you to come back. But if you choose to take excursions, you need to be aware that that's not a safe place for you, that people are going to assume that you just left your husbands at the resort, and you need to let them assume that, and don't try to correct them, because then you could put your safety at risk. So I just have to continually have those conversations. I've had some people say, well, if that's the case, I'm not going to go, but I've had a lot of people just say, okay, thank you, we'll take that into consideration, and we move forward.
Hmm.
Right. And I totally agree. It's just educating ourselves first so that we can educate our clients. And things are very fluid. What maybe have been a great destination 6 months, a year, 2 years ago may not be the same now. And maybe someplace we weren't selling a couple of years is totally different now. So you have to continue to stay up on things because things change very quickly.
That's the crazy thing too, that's actually really mind-blowing to me, is that somewhere that was great 2 years ago is different. You would think everything is trending in the a good direction, but that's really interesting. And so that's where what I'm gathering too is especially like really tap into those Facebook groups, those the IGLTA. And is that where you can find a lot of suppliers? Because one thing that I'm wondering is a lot of advisors listening, like my clients want to go there, but I don't personally have experience going there. So who can I ask that does? And maybe the suppliers be the best?
I don't know that you would get the best information from the suppliers, because again, the suppliers want you to come. They want you to spend
True.
your travel dollars there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you're using a very specific supplier. And I'm going to give a little shout out to Vakaya. Vakaya is fabulous. They do actually charters, or they do buyouts of hotels, charters of ships. It's very specific. So when they're planning something, they're vetting a destination, they're vetting everything really well. So that is a supplier, but they're actually creating their own. They're not just a supplier you can look up and anybody would book into it for no reason. So it's a little bit different. You have specialized suppliers. So those suppliers will be looking out in the best interest of your client for you in a way. But and many of the other suppliers do as well. I don't want to say that they don't, but always go that extra mile when you find something through a supplier, and maybe just do it a little bit of extra research on yourself, on your own. And again, that's where the Facebook groups come in handy, because there's a Facebook specialty group for every destination on the planet. So you can literally go into a group for, Mexico, specifically Cancun, and just say, hey, I have a couple that's looking for a destination wedding, and this is the property they're looking at. Has anybody had a recent experience? And somebody has. Somebody has sold it, somebody's been there, and they're going to share their personal experience with you. And that's better information than you can get anywhere, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Hmm. That's what I was just thinking, is it's really the people who are truly going there, experiencing. That's where you'll get all that. So, and feel free to send all the resources to my way, and I'll compile a list so that we can send people in the right direction. But those are really a lot of the questions I had. But I just want to make sure, is there anything else that's really important that we should make note of or share?
I think there's a lot of differences even within the LGBT community that people need to be aware of. Marketing to lesbians is not the same as marketing to gay men. Their travel needs, their safety needs are going to be different, especially when you get into trans folks and their safety needs. It's very different. So just assuming, my cousin's gay, so I know you don't know. You really do need to do your research.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's where you can find a lot of actual research and information is on the CMI site with all of their surveys that they've done. So a lot of that kind of gives you a little bit of a head start, but then you still need to do your own research as well. And everybody's comfort level is different, right? So one person who might say, "Oh, I'll totally go to that place. I have no problem." Another person may say, "I'm just not comfortable." So we can't just assume from client to client to client, just because one client was okay with something and had a good experience, the next one is going to be maybe okay with the same things and might have the same experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know, for example, I've worked with some gay men traveling to the Middle East. In the Middle East, gay men are totally okay because it's very common in that culture for men to hold hands. It's even just in friendship, it's very common, but so that they would be tolerated and respected in a different way than two women would be tolerated and respected. So you just gotta get as informed about the destination as you can.
Yeah, there's so much to know. Yeah. That's really cool. And thank you, both for sharing. I mean, so much, but so much good stuff. And the other thing too is even if you're not specializing in, I mean, you really should still know all this, because if you want to cater to all your clients and have the right questions to ask ahead of time too, to know specific needs, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, beyond looking on social media and looking at some of the sites that Heather and I will share, is look in your own local community. I sat on our Pride board in my local community for several years and assisted with planning events and doing fundraising and reaching out in our annual Pride event. There's so many ways you can get involved within your community. And do it not just for getting business, do it because you would enjoy contributing to your community. And every community has, one or more, groups that you can join or volunteer with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, just in your own community, all the amazing. I love that. But before we go though, I have something kind of fun. So we like to do rapid fire questions. So I've dwindled it down to 3. So for each of you. Okay. So I'm just gonna start off here, and Heather, I'll start with you here. What is your favorite destination you've ever traveled to?
Oh,
Kind of a
favorite
tough one.
destination would probably be Canada. Although I love a Virgin cruise. I've got to admit, I really love a Virgin cruise. I don't care where they're going. I'll go with Virgin.
What about you, Kathy? What would you say is your the favorite destination you've ever traveled to?
Spain.
Oh, Spain.
I think they are the most welcoming group of people. And apparently, if you live in Spain, you have to own a Chihuahua, or at least everyone did when I was there. It's beautiful. It felt safe. Everybody was warm and inviting. The food's amazing. The weather was great. The attractions and history, the architecture is unbelievable. Definitely Spain.
That's awesome. And okay, so this one's a little twist on that first question. Okay, so Heather, I'll go back to you here. What do you think is the most underrated destination to visit?
I would say the most underrated destination to visit is the Dominican Republic. I love the Dominican Republic, and I think you get a lot of bang for your travel dollar there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would have to say probably destinations in Mexico that aren't Cancun or Puerto Vallarta. Because those are the two people tend to be attracted to the larger destinations, but I like things that are off the beaten track. I love Tulum. It's a little farther. It's a little off the beaten path. I know people there, and I like that experience a little bit more.
Yeah, that is on my list for sure. And I haven't been to the Dominican either. Yeah, those beautiful weather. Oh, I just want to picture myself on a beach now. I love that. So then the last question for you both is, where are you headed next? Do you have a travel or a trip planned? What about you, Heather?
Yeah, in 2 weeks, I'm actually going on a land tour with CIEs to Scotland and Ireland. I'm super excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. I'm so jealous. I have nothing planned right now. I'm coming off of several trips. I was in Mexico for 10 days all over. And before that, I was on a cruise. I'll probably have another cruise coming up here soon, but nothing concrete yet.
Yeah, except for Asta. I guess I know some of your travel would be And Aston, but you're not going, you're just driving a little bit.
Just driving. So it's not really a trip because it's not far from me since it's in San Francisco.
That's true. Actually, I lied. I'm going to ask one more question because I'm curious. What is your favorite place to travel to in the U.S., in the United States?
I really love Northern California. We have family out there, so we go out there every couple of years. And I'm not really a wine person, but I'm very much a cheese person, and the cheese tours are amazing.
Well, let me know when you're here, Heather, and I'll come meet up with you.
Okay.
For me, Palm Springs. I love Palm Springs. A lot of people don't really think about it. You don't even have to be a golfer to go to Palm Springs, but it's just a very unique place. And I love mid-century modern architecture. And when you go to certain parts of Palm Springs, it still looks like the 60s. They have that really cool Mad Men flat roof architecture. They haven't torn them down. They haven't changed them, but it's a really fun destination. And even the airport's fun because when you land in Palm Springs, you're outside. So you're looking where the terminal is. It's outside. Everything's outside.
Yes.
I think they only get 10 days of rain a year in Palm Springs. So it's just a really kind of fun, quirky destination.
Yeah. I need to go there because I remember we love that 60s, 70s vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, so awesome. Well, this has been really great. And again, thank you so much. I'm really excited to put together the list. So everyone, again, go check out at academy.travify.com for a ton of resources from Heather and Kathy. And we'll compile a list of all that. And just thank you so much again. It's been great. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge with Travify Academy. And especially to our special guests, Heather and Kathy, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe and we'll catch you on the next flight.
Happy Pride.
Woo!